welcome back to Tolkien with Friends, where we're about to enter a level of unhinged I don't think we've seen quite yet in the movies. Helping us with today's chapter of The Hobbit, Flies and Spiders, we're very excited to welcome our friend Myla to the podcast.
Yay!
Welcome, Myla.
Hi.
Now, Myla, where can our listeners find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at Myla Malinalda almost anywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok mainly. If you like Tolkien and you like musicals, then my accounts might be for you.
Yeah, Myla's your girl.
Yeah.
And she's certainly our girl. Love your stuff. I love seeing your collection.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So many cool things. Not to mention, whenever, weren't you doing the affirmation cards for a while? Yeah. I love those. I love everything. I love all of it. Whatever you put out there, I'm into.
I'm working on a Rings of Power set very slowly, but it's sort of happening.
That's awesome.
Cool.
I can't wait. Well, that's super awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. I really need all the friends I can get for the Hobbit movies. But that's just me. But before we get into the chapter and about 22 minutes-ish of the extended edition of Desolation of Smaug, Myla, can you tell us a little bit more about your background with the Hobbit books and the movies? How did they impact you as a Lord of the Rings fan? How did they enter your life?
So for me, I definitely first started for anything Tolkien, the Peter Jackson trilogy, because I was a child when they came out. And I remember it was like, how you had to read a book every summer for homework for school, sadly. And one of the books suggested was The Hobbit. And I was already into Lord of the Rings. And I thought, this is a great opportunity. I was 9 at the time, let me read The Hobbit and see what this is about. And then obviously loved it. It was a lot easier for me to read than Lord of the Rings, admittedly. And when the Hobbit movies came out, that was the height of Tumblr, at least in my life. I don't know about everyone else.
Yes. Tumblr
So
gang.
it was really fun to speculate and react with everyone else. And I was very excited. I did the trailer reaction video. I cried like everybody else. Very excited. There were some things I was iffy about, but altogether happy. And then I went to the midnight showing for an unexpected journey, and I left so mad.
Oh no!
I obviously when it started, I cried because Hobbits and Shire, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just remember near the end, the guy next to me, I don't know, some stranger, he was like, "What the hell is happening?" When Thorin and Azog are fighting.
I know.
I've made my peace with them. I'm at a point now where I do enjoy the films. I've made a complete 180 from 10 years ago. And I watched the first movie yesterday for the first time in probably 4 years. Yeah. I enjoyed myself. I was having a great time.
Yes.
Well, I love that.
Yeah.
Growth.
I think
we love to see it.
I need to get over myself and realize it's an adaptation. It's not a one-to-one to the book, nor should I expect it to be. So I enjoy it for what it is. And
that's what I keep trying to tell myself. And then I sit down to what, okay, so the first movie, I think we had a pretty good time. This so far into the second movie, I'm back on the struggle bus. And I'm not actively hating it as much as when I first saw it. But I am just a little bit sad by the way that they decided to change it. Do you know what I mean? Of course they're going to change things. Of course they're going to do things differently. But there are some things where I'm oh, for me, it's all about Bilbo. Do you know what I mean? And
he's my favorite.
I love him so much. And it's really he gets moments to shine in the Hobbit book that I really appreciate. And then in the movies, it's really not about Bilbo. And that's hard for me to grapple
Bilbo
with.
And then Thorin and company.
Yeah, it's
the Hobbit and the dwarves.
Thorin and well, we'll see. There's more and more things get added to the mix. Do you know what I mean? Than what is in the book.
And I'm a bard girly, so I think that's why I enjoyed the last two ones more than I thought I would.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Luke Evans forever, right? And in this part of the movie, we also see Lee Pace as Thranduil, and
Amazing.
there's no faulting the casting. That's never my issue, So I think with that, maybe we just get on into it. So at the point that we stopped reading and also stopped watching, both in both the book and the movie, our company was diving into more Mirkwood. And in the movie, we're picking up at basically exactly 30 minutes in with Bilbo and crew entering Mirkwood, and the path that they portray in the movie is very windy. They make a lot of turns, and I was like, this is pretty much straight through the forest. That's fine. I get it. They're making it feel longer. That I was like, interesting. And what is interesting though is that like where Lord of the Rings was really okay with like sitting with our group for a minute, like watching them walk and making it kind of showing that it's kind of arduous and that's like icky, like that's a part of the pain is just like how much walking you're doing. It all goes very quickly insofar as the Hobbit movies. Like there isn't really that sense of like, when will this end? Which is kind of part of the point of Mirkwood, like that's kind of the problem is that it's super fucking dark. There's no water that you can drink. There's no like reasonable food source. And so, that's kind of the bag. But here it kind of cuts straight to the chase. I mean, first we get the enchanted stream. So we don't really get to see them camping or, the one thing that I kind of think that Peter Jackson could have done a good job with is like the darkness of Mirkwood. It is like I understand that his is pretty well lit, and like he's never been one to like show complete darkness in a movie, which I appreciate generally. For Mirkwood, like how some episodes of like Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon are just like crazy dark.
You can't see anything.
I think it really could have worked for this. Like
Bilbo puts his hand in front of his face and like he can't see it.
Yeah, like I think that
what
they
could like it's like pitch black, but like a true.
Yeah, he like puts it like, but not pitch black like what you're thinking. Like truly black. And then it's like Bilbo eventually adjusts his vision and he's able to like see a little bit better than the dwarves, which I also think is a nice little detail, a little like fun things that Bilbo knows how to do, which we also get a little bit later with the spiders. But I really think that like the many animal eyes and like insect eyes that watch them while they're camping, I really think that Peter could have done that kind of cool.
Yeah. I agree.
Like that's in his wheelhouse. He would enjoy doing something like that.
Yeah, so I was kind of sad that we don't. And I get it and I don't. Like he's trying to like get through it kind of fast. Like you can tell like he's trying to get them to Thorin or at least to the spiders.
Like in the movie, I feel suffocated and I'm not even like there.
Yeah.
Like when Bilbo finally I'm going a little ahead, but like when he finally gets up there, like I feel like I can breathe again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot more loopy in a movie.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is kind of like a bad like acid trip or something. Or like I don't know. It's like the way that they decided to interpret the enchantment is like almost like it's too much. Like I think that that really like the darkness and the decay and like the despair is the problem in Mirkwood, not so much what's actually in Mirkwood. Like we don't like we get straight to like cobweb, and like cobwebs are supposed to be everywhere, but I'm sad that we missed the point about like, and like the path that they have in the movie isn't super clear. Like even when Bilbo was yelling at them to like not stray off the road, I was like, I don't even see where it is. Like, like I imagine it so much more clear. And like the point of, because Tolkien makes a point to say that the cobwebs are everywhere, but they do not go in front of the path, so that there's some kind of like specialness there's some like, if not wholesomeness, but just kind of like that's generally safe, you know? So I feel like that kind of stuff is missing. And it's also like Tolkien does creepy so well. So it's sad. It makes me sad when it doesn't get like, I think people, if you haven't read the book, that's something that to really look forward to in Tolkien's writing is when we get to these like spooky, strange places. Like when he writes about them camping on their, you know, before they get to the stream. He says they slept all closely huddled together and took it in turns to watch. And when it was Bilbo's turn, he would see gleams in the darkness around them. And sometimes pairs of yellow or red or green eyes would stare at him from a little distance and then slowly fade and disappear and slowly shine out again in another place. But the eyes he liked the least were horrible, pale, bulbous sort of eyes. Insect eyes, he thought, not animal eyes, only they are much too big. I'm like, oh!
I know I'm like cringing like in myself. I'm like, oh, I don't even want to picture that.
I know, and like the point of when they tried to light the fire and it's just like a bunch of moths and bats just like descend upon the light. But we skip over that completely in the movie.
How long are they in there in the movie? Is it even a day?
It doesn't seem. I mean, they kind of make. I think it's Dwalin that makes a point later where he says he doesn't even know what day it is. So maybe they're trying to imply that it's longer, but like we really can't tell because there is none of that camping or anything. And it is kind of like all one lighting mode. I don't even know because like there is no sun setting or anything. So I'm not really sure.
Because it's not the same as the book, though.
And that would have, and I don't think the movie we would have wanted to stay with them for days and days and days in the forest. But like there was that sense of growing desperation because they were running out of rations, and that was like really pushing them. They were out of food, they were starving, they were thirsty, they were tired, and that just doesn't really come through in the movie for me.
No, they have like so much crazy amounts of energy for the spider scene, which we'll get to in a minute, but it's like, I don't know. It's just like the desperation isn't there. So I think Mirkwood like hits a little differently. It's almost like
they're more annoyed than they are like scared that they're going to die.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. They're all just kind of like having a bad acid trip. Like what was interesting is that so when they get to the stream, the bridge is broken in both versions. It's like rotted away or whatever. And because they've kind of removed the crazy darkness, we lose Bilbo telling them about a boat being across the stream, and he can't tell if it's tied up or not, but like he guides Feely to, you know, create a hook and like try to pull it back. And they do pull it back, which is kind of amazing because it turns out it was tied up. And so, you know, kind of point to Bilbo again here with him kind of stepping up and showing some leadership. And he, you know, they all kind of go in groups to make it across the river. But because we lose that, they decide to come up with this vine climbing thing. And when they do that, Bilbo, they're like taking the enchantment from the stream like to another. It's not just about if you get wet. Like even when Bilbo is crossing it and looks at it for too long, he starts to get all sleepy and weird. And so then he's about to tell the dwarves not to follow because something is up. But they all follow it like immediately.
They're all just already there.
Yeah. And Bomber falls asleep before he even hits the water. So it's kind of like, it's like unexplainable at this point, right? Like, I guess it's just that power, like it's like got a secret steam of
like the vapors.
Yeah. So it's like him actually falling into the water doesn't even matter at that point because he's already
asleep.
Yeah.
Bomber just like goes back and just plops in kind of, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't even like him drowning. Like in the book, he falls in and he's like in, you know, and they have to act quickly to get him, but in the movie he falls in, it's like super shallow, like
a
maybe it's on the side.
He's just floating, just sleeping.
And it's like not a big deal in the movie, like the fact that they have to carry him, like they just do it, they just cut to him picking it up. We do have the heart, or like the stag that shows up in the movie. It's white. In the book he black, and Thorin shoots at it and misses. In the book he shoots at it and hits, but it's across the wrong side of the river. And
there were 2 deer or whatever in the book.
Well, there's right? There's the black, like he calls it a hart. I'm assuming it's like a boy one. It's like a stag. I didn't Google heart before this. But then they see a white deer and like fawns after that. So they just like combine them for the movie, I guess. I don't know.
But there was no boat. There was no like throwing of this.
Yeah, like the whole point of him. Well,
swinging dwarves.
Like, and Tolkien points out that part of the point of the importance of the, deer are that they've reached the other side. They're like on the end. They're towards the end. They're the eastern edge, and that's if they had realized, they would have understood the significance of that. That's never mentioned. And it's like, but also, in addition, the deer is the thing that scares Bomber, or it kind of bowls them over when they're trying to cross the river. And that's the reason that Bomber even falls in the first place. So like the stag serves like no purpose in the movie.
It reminded me of a Harry Potter moment where they're like shooting the unicorn. And they're like, don't shoot the unicorn, they're pure.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, like Bilbo just makes a point about it being bad luck.
Yeah.
That's something he knows.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. I don't know. It just felt like, so you decided to do that, but not like the bugs, which I feel like is more up Peter's alley. I don't know.
Peter likes scary things. I feel like he would have liked to do his own take on that.
Yeah, because then later, when we do get to the spiders, Bilbo has to fight like some weird pale. I don't even know.
I don't know what it is. It's like a weird crabby giant
thing.
Crustacean.
To be honest, I don't really watch the spider scenes. I'm like looking like really small.
It was very much giving the scene in. Did you guys watch his King Kong?
Yeah, those things.
When they fall into that ravine and it's just covered in gigantic bugs and creepy. It was giving that. I was like, okay, so we do miss the bugs, but yet don't put the bugs in where they go. Put the bugs in. I don't know. I don't know.
A bug. I don't know.
I
didn't want to look at it.
It gives a bug of some sort. I don't really know what it is.
The poor thing was just like walking too. He just happened to tap the ring, just minding his own business, and that's the ring.
I do appreciate that Bilbo actually drops it, because it's like, that's what you get for keeping it loosey-goosey in your pocket at all times.
Nobody has like a zipper, I guess, at this time period.
But like, you know, get a
They have buttons, though. We know it's been very well established that they have buttons.
Totally got buttons. So, I don't know.
Put one on your pocket.
Makes me nervous. Just sit loosey-goosey all the time. So, and it should be dropped way more than it is. Do you know what I mean?
I think the ring is just thinking, I'm going to stay here for a little bit.
Yeah, he's like, Mirkwood is chill. He's like, I'm pretty sure my guy is somewhere around here. I'll just get dropped. Yeah. The ring knew what was up. Bilbo did not.
Yeah.
So once they are, they get to the other side of the bridge, and they're still like in some kind of fog. Like nothing kind of makes sense during that part. It's kind of like, for me, it wasn't like super interesting to watch them just being like, like, do you know what I mean? Like I was like, okay, they're having a rough time. I see.
I know Dory at one point he's like, there's dwarves in these woods.
Yeah.
Like, and that's you.
And Beaufort was like,
that's you.
Yeah, they dropped a wallet. It's just like mine. Bilbo's like,
Bilbo, he's like, that's you.
Yeah. And then Bilbo like he looks behind him, and instead of seeing one of the dwarves, he sees himself. I'm like, what
walking back. Doesn't he like look at his feet and he's like,
they're like
going back? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a badass to trip in there.
It is. So I don't know what was in that river. It just makes you sleep in the book. It's just sleepy time tea, you know? So little different. And so once we get to the opposite side, and you know, we do have the same sequence. It's weirder in the movie, I feel like, because at the point in the book, they're just like, I'm so tired. I'm so hungry. How much farther does this even go? Like, have we even gotten close to it? So they get Bilbo to go up the tree. And in the movie, he just kind of does it. You know, it's like Bilbo's idea, and he just does it while the dwarves are dripping acid. And he goes up there. I thought it was interesting that they made the leaves at the top of the tree already look like it's fall. Does anyone else think that was an interesting choice?
I think it was because I know the butterflies are supposed to be like a really black. velvety.
Yeah, and they're blue.
And they're blue. I think it's just to look contrasting with the red.
Yeah.
I don't know the significance of having blue butterflies, but yeah, I do miss the velvety black.
I know. I really wanted it to be like, and they all just kind of fly away. I kind of wanted like a close-up shot. But at least in my head, I have a close-up shot of the black velvety butterflies. And they're supposed to be tiny spiders up there too. But super different is that Bilbo in the movie can see to the Long Lake and the Lonely Mountain. Bilbo in the book cannot. It is basically Tolkien is like, unfortunately, he was in a very tall tree, but he was kind of at the bottom of a valley. So it kind of just looks like the trees go on and on. So Bilbo comes back down, and he has really bad news for them, and they're just like, oh my gosh. And you know, Bomber is pitching a fit because he was like, I was having an amazing dream about eating. And they're all like, oh, shut up. We don't want to hear about it, you know?
We can't share your dream feasts. I love that. Yeah. And then he just throws a full-on tantrum. He just sits down in the path, doesn't he? And he's like, I'm not going anywhere, damn it.
I know. He's like, this is it. I'm just going to go back to sleep. And they're like, I mean,
I felt very connected to him in that moment. I would have done the same thing.
I mean, I feel like I've definitely done that in like theme parks and stuff.
It's like, well, this is my life now. I guess I'll just live here and never eat again.
Yeah. So at least I can eat in my dreams. And that's when we get to a part that's completely cut from the movie. Why? So, as y'all know, in the movie, once Bilbo exits the tree, he's being attacked by a spider, and the dwarves have already been attacked. That's a bit different from the book, and I love this part of the book. Truly, I think it is there's something so interesting about the wood-elves of Mirkwood. They really have like a whole different vibe and flavor, you know, almost more like old school fairy tale stuff. So they are starving. They are very grumpy, as one would be in the dark. You know, there's just not a lot of hope at this point in their journey, and they see lights in the distance, and they hear singing and music and laughter, and they're like, we have to leave the path to do it. And they debate on who should be the one to go and approach these people. They decide they will all just go because nobody wanted to be that guy that can't get back to the path. So they all plunge into the forest. They go out and they see there's feasting wood elves. And they have flowers in their hair, and there's lights, and there's food, and it smells amazing. And so they walk forward to try to say like, hey, help, you know. All the lights immediately go out. Like, everything's chaos. It takes them a while to find each other again. And then they're like, well, damn. And then the lights pop back up again, right? And they go, and this time they have Bilbo go forward. And Bilbo immediately falls asleep. I could tell that these elves, like, they're one of their go-tos is just making their enemies fall asleep between that river and this. So they're just like, and they just get away. The final time they try to go up to the, they've kind of given up, but then they see it again. And at this point, they're just so hungry, they're tired and they're so hungry. So they go and they have Thorin go in first. But the same thing happens. Lights go out. They can't find each other. It's really tough. And then Bilbo can't find any of the dwarves. And this is where he is. I mean, he's just like, I can't see anything. So he just kind of lays down and like takes a nap. And like, it's like, oh, I don't know what else to do. So I'll wait till I can see a little bit. And then he's awoken by a spider. And that's when, we get his first kind of action in this story, and we get the name Sting, and I just think that it would have been so neat to kind of see the elves, there's like a different type of elf, and to see them kind of just like enjoying themselves, and it also like doesn't lend itself to the narrative that like Peter is trying to give us with like this whole dwarves versus elves thing. But in this chapter later, after we learn more about what's going on with Thorin and after the spiders, he tells us that the feasting people were wood elves, of course. These are not wicked folk. If they have a fault, it is a distrust of strangers. Though their magic was strong, even in those days, they were wary. And it goes on, and you can see him. What I think is really fascinating about this passage is how he is clearly weaving in and like overlaying some of his work from, the broader Middle Earth, the Silmarillion type stuff, because we know that when he originally wrote this, Lord of the Rings wasn't even a thought yet. And so I love the idea of him like not necessarily trying to make this a Middle Earth story, but like he's got so much information and he's probably thinking about it so much that it just kind of naturally comes out. And I love the way that he like tweaks things to make it work for the Hobbit, rather than like the types of phrasing and word choices that he uses for the film. So like he says, they differed from the high elves of the West and were more dangerous and less wise. For most of them, together with their scattered relations in the hills and mountains, were descended from the ancient tribes that never went to ferry in the West, rather than, wow, I'm blanking. What do they call it? Valinor? Jesus Christ. Valinor. So we've got calling it fairy. I just think that's so. I mean, it's just like the little whimsical touches, They're the light elves and the deep elves and the sea elves. Like the simplification of the different types of elves, I think is really cool. Went and lived for ages and grew fairer and wiser and more learned and invented their magic and their cunning craft in the making of beautiful and marvelous things. Before some came back into the wide world, meaning Middle Earth. In the wide world, the wood elves lingered in the twilight of our sun and moon, but loved best the stars, and they wandered in the great forest that grew tall in lands that are now lost. They dwelt most often by the edges of the woods, from which they could escape at times to hunt, or to ride and run over the open lands by moonlight and starlight. And after the coming of men, they took ever more and more to the gloaming and the dusk. Still elves they were and remain, and that is good people. And of course, we're not going to make reference to them being good people in this, because Peter is always making it like Thranduil and his people are kind of assholes in this version. But I do just want to note, if you weren't aware, these guys are cool. They're cool. They're chill. They're good people. In caps.
Good
capital
people,
G, capital P.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear on that, So when we get to Bilbo finally doing the thing with the spiders, I really like this in the book, because where of course for Peter it's going to turn into an action sequence, right? But in the book it's really a chance for Bilbo to not only prove himself in the simple act of like rescuing the dwarves, but he really steps up here. He doesn't like hope that the dwarves are just going to figure it out. Like he uses the ring and he uses his smarts to lead the spiders away, while the dwarves are trying to like figure out how to get away, because essentially this doesn't happen in the book, in the movie, for whatever reason, even though we know that, I mean, like, we could probably all figure that these guys have some relation to Shelob, and Shelob stabs you before she wraps you up. And same is true here. These guys are basically been poisoned, and they're kind of woozy, and they're not all able to stand yet or run very fast or anything. So Bilbo has to and like some of the dwarves are able to, like, there's 4 of them out of the 12 that we currently have, I think, that are able to actually help Bilbo, but for the most part, they're kind of out of commission. So Bilbo uses the ring and taunts the spiders. You know, I totally forgot that the spiders in the movie do get to talk, you know.
When the ring's on, right?
Yes, only when the ring is on. A departure from all the other animals that we've ever seen. I thought that was interesting. I guess it works because they're bad guys. With that, you know, Bilbo is he of course we're gonna get songs, and so Bilbo comes up with like a rhyme to antagonize the spiders, which is funny, calling them things like Addercop and Tom Noddy.
Tom Noddy. How insulting.
I know. It's like nobody would want to be called that. I'm like, thank you for telling me, because I wasn't.
It's like the worst of the worst to be called. I'm just like, oh, okay.
I'm like, thank you for clearing that
That's
up,
kind of a cute name.
because I would have not known.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but in the movie, he doesn't, I mean, he leads them away by just throwing something. And I'm like, all right, whatever. They really let the dwarves kind of take over this scene. It's not really about Bilbo once he cuts them down. And they use that instead for Bilbo to drop the ring, and he gets separated from the dwarves. And him just like fighting that creepy crawly in order to get the ring back.
Thing was just walking to wherever he needed to go.
I know. He was like, I'm just living my life here. I'm not trying to wear your stupid jewelry. I don't even have fingers.
Bilbo was like, I should maybe calm down a little bit. Like at the end, he's like, what did I just do?
Yeah, he's like, that made me feel icky.
Yeah.
But the power of the ring.
Yeah.
I know.
Sneaking that in. Yeah.
Yeah, because that didn't happen in the books, right? That was totally a movie.
No, and that's the thing is that, like, I mean, and I get it, like, technically Sauron isn't that far away. So you would think that the ring would be doing up to more hijinks, but in the book, it is really just a tool for Bilbo to use. You know what I mean? Like, it's not this like ominous thing. I mean, it is, but it isn't, you know? And so, like, I get that. They kind of overlay, like Bilbo saying it's mine. I'm like, who are you talking to? A bug?
He doesn't even say that. He just holds it and says, like, mine.
Yeah.
It's just like one word.
I'm like, okay, it's all right, buddy.
But in the books, he tells the dwarves about it.
Yeah.
Which I forgot. I totally forgot.
Yeah,
that he had done that.
Right, because that's the point where it's post-Spider, and they're reunited, and they're like, first he has to tell them, like, okay, I'm going to disappear to lead these guys away. That's when you need to get out of here. And everyone was like, what do you mean? Disappear? That's only my sauce. And then he puts the ring on and he poofs. And then I think it's Dwalin that's like, all right, I'm picking up what you're putting down. And he like gets them out of there while Bilbo runs away. And so then after that, when it's all kind of calm, they find a clearing that like the spiders give up on the chase, and they're like, okay, Bilbo, what the heck is up with the disappearing act? And so he has to tell them about the ring, and they honestly, like, he was worried that it would make him seem like less sneaky, you know, like he tried to credit himself fully for it before, but then they just think it's awesome. They're like, sweet, he got some
cool points.
A clever guy with a magic ring up his sleeve. Like, that's great. Love to see it. And then Tolkien notes that they start asking Bilbo a lot of questions, and they're looking to him as a leader in this case because Thorin's not there.
They don't realize. Did they realize it at this point?
They realize it after the spiders, but Thorin has been captured by the elves after that third attempt to ask for help during their feast. And so they it kind of backtracks with Thorin in the book, and it tells us about what, you know, some of the history there, which is obviously which we're going to get to in a second, because rather than having like a moment of calm, we have the elves show up at the end of the spider fight in the movie.
Right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, another thing that I was going to say about the spiders, though, with Bilbo is that in addition to having the ring and, like, you know, he kind of gets his hands dirty by, like, using Sting. Like, he gets to name Sting after killing his first spider, right? But he also, boy can throw stones. He kills some spiders just by hitting them in the head with rocks. And I'm like, okay.
Is there like a part in the book where he just like brags about all his skills on these different things?
It's like Tolkien.
And they're like, I'm not going to get into it all right now.
Yeah, it's like Tolkien bragging on his behalf that like he would throw rocks at like small animals, and so
squirrels and birds would move out of his way when they saw him stooping.
I was like, okay, scary.
That's the Tookish side.
No, naughty little kid. So yeah, he's got an arm. He can toss some stones, which I thought was, I mean, good for him. Who knew? I mean, these spiders are quite big, so we know that wouldn't work on Mama Sheila, but I'm glad that it works here, because sometimes he says that they're like knocked out, but sometimes he says that it fell dead, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah. How hard are you throwing those things?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But good for Bilbo. He's got brain and he's got brawn. You know what I'm saying? He's a full package. And so rather than letting the dwarves just kind of figure out the spiders, the movie, we get Legolas and Tauriel and a whole bunch of other elves that show up. And, you know, ultimately, like, it's not the worst. I think that my problem with them is that they're really just used to deliver this like heavy-handed subplot about animosity between the dwarves and the elves. Like, I just don't like it. I don't enjoy it. Them like being mean to each other like that. And it's like, it also struck me how the movie wastes zero time in having like Keely and Tauriel flirting. And I'm just like, it's like instant, right?
He
like,
was already gone by the time she showed up. He's like, that's it. I'm already,
but she's into it. Like, I know. Like when they end up taking the dwarves to like Thranduil's fortress and they lock them up. Of course, it's Tauriel that locks up Keely, and he's like, aren't you going to search me? What if I have something down my trousers? Also, the humor is kind of like,
I got Annex Wilson's favorite line.
Yeah.
I just think that like where the humor was like reminiscent of the books in like the Lord of the Rings movies, or like sometimes it was silly, but it was never too far off from the humor used in the book. I feel like sometimes, like, you know, it wasn't ever too like modern, if that makes sense. But in The Hobbit, I feel like it's just like, it's kind of childish and weird. Like,
it gave me the ick, because I know if I heard that in real life, I'll be like, no.
I'd be like,
ew, yeah.
You know, like she makes a joke, you know, like saying that he's got nothing, but then afterwards, Legolas is immediately picking up on this weirdness between them, and is like, why is that dwarf looking at you? And she's like, I don't know, but he is kind of tall for a dwarf. And I was like, seriously? For the pants joke?
did it for her. Yeah.
I'm disappointed, Toriel. Really. I'm disappointed. But
like that got her.
Yeah, I'm just like so confused by the writing of this movie.
Yeah. Legolas is just so mean.
Yeah, he's like extra mean. And I'm like, you barely talked in Fellowship, dude. Like,
what happened between like then and like now? What?
Yeah,
you mellowed out a lot.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I just like the rudeness about Gimli's baby picture sits wrong with me because I'm like I know that they're trying to be like, haha, they become besties later, but I'm like, I just doesn't.
I'm such a sucker for fan service.
But I just feel like
any reference, and I'm like, you're so mean. Like, and then he like insults his wife too.
Yeah, like it's a man, and then Gimli's a goblin mutant or something.
Yeah,
and I'm just like I get it. He's trying to show, like, they're trying to show that Gimli is Gloin's
Legolas is so elegant in Lord of the Rings, and just
he's classy.
Kind of on another level. And now, just why are you so mean?
It's like it's too mean. Do you know? Like it takes me out of it. I'm like, he wouldn't say that.
I would have liked a Gimli reference if it was like playful.
Yeah, it's not just straight up like your baby ugly.
A goblin you.
I'm like, no.
Like, you know, he knows it's his son too.
Yeah, and it's also like, the elves are just classier than that. They just are.
I'm having a bad day.
Yeah, I'm just not buying it. You know. And so that's when, and I totally understand them keeping the dwarves together for this bit to be taken to, Thranduil's little fortress in the woods, rather than like doing the separation thing. I like, for the movie's purposes, they probably didn't have time for all that. And like having Bilbo fighting that creepy crawly is like the reason that they separate him. But in the book, it's really like Bilbo's a thinker. He gets away on purpose with the ring. You know what I mean? So that he isn't captured and is able to follow them. In the movie, it feels a little bit more like an accident, you know? Not that he was really planning for that to happen. So again, every time they chip away at my poor little Bilbo, it makes me sad. It just makes me sad. And that's how I feel.
There's a lot more cunning in the books.
Yeah, he's a smart cookie. You know what I mean? And he is a valuable asset to the team. And I don't think that the writing brings that through in the movie.
And I love that part in The Hobbit when he killed like that old spider. Like, that was when he realized no one else was here to help me, but I got this anyway.
100%. Like, he felt it. And, like, he felt braver and stronger, which was very important. Very important for Bilbo, but we don't get those little moments. Not in this version of the story. It's fine. I'll get over it, I swear. And of course, while they lock up the rest of the dwarves, like we were saying, but they keep Thorin to hang out with Zaddy Thranduil for.
I love how they show Thranduil just like fading in and out, like his eyes. His
I know.
Yeah. It's like a perfume commercial, you know, when they just like, it's so romanticized. Like, they're like really stepping it up, like introducing Thranduil, which is kind of perfect for him because he kind of is that way.
Yeah. And it's like, I think that like Lee Pace is bringing it, you know, Richard Armitage obviously serving in this confrontational scene.
The scene in the book is one of my top 5 favorite parts of the whole. That's why I picked this chapter for the last scene in the chapter, because it's so funny. And I was so looking forward to them having like, we were starving, like just over and over again.
I know, it's so
I understand it didn't fit with the movie, but I think
it didn't fit because they didn't let it.
Yeah.
They had full
I love
control.
that moment.
Yeah, I do too. I think I think it's really well done. I think it's really smart. But what I was thinking about is that when they have Thranduil saying like, I'll let you go in the movie if Thorin will like retrieve these jewels that he feels like are rightfully his from Erebor. It feels like a sort of nod to this one paragraph at the end of the chapter where it's talking about the conflicts between dwarves and elves. It tries to give a little bit of context there. And it says, in ancient days, they had wars with some of the dwarves whom they accused of stealing their treasure. It is only fair to say that the dwarves gave a different account and said that they only took what was their due, for the elf king had bargained with them to shape his raw gold and silver and had afterwards refused to give them their pay. Honestly, historically, that has happened. So I wouldn't, if the Elf King had a weakness, it was for treasure, especially for silver and white gems. And though his hoard was rich, he was ever eager for more, since he had not yet as great a treasure as other elf lords of old. His people neither mined nor worked metals or jewels, nor did they ever bother much with trade or with tilling the earth. All this was well known to every dwarf, though Thorin's family had nothing to do with the old quarrel I have spoken of. Consequently, Thorin was angry at their mistreatment of him, and also he was determined that no word of gold or jewels should be dragged out of him. So, when we get to that point in the book, and Thranduil is like, what are you... I mean, and in the Hobbit, they only ever call him the Elf King. Because, obviously, Tolkien didn't know yet that would be Thranduil. And he is really only he's like trying to ask him, what are you doing here? And Thorin just responds, we're starving, we were asking for help. It's like, why did you and your folk 3 times try to attack my people at their merrymaking? And I'm just kind of like, drama queen.
Drama, yeah.
Lee Pace
like
was
hundreds of them, and then
yeah, I'm like, really? For real, you felt attacked? And he's like, we did not attack them. We came to beg because we were starving. Where are your friends now? What are they doing? I don't know, but I expect starving in the forest.
Love
what
it.
a flippant answer.
What were you doing in the forest? Looking for food and drink because we were starving. But what brought you into the forest at all? And at
that's where you get stuck.
Yeah. So Thorin doesn't answer, and the king says, take him away and keep him safe until he feels inclined to tell the truth, even if he waits 100 years. And of course, they try to hit that vibe in the movie by having like Thranduil, he has this little moment where he's being dramatic about dragons, and obviously, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's just made up, like the whole him having this wound, this crazy injury from a dragon, and
dramatic.
He, like, magically covers it up, I guess. I don't know how that works. And so he's like, don't talk to me about dragons. And he basically says, like, you got what you deserved. I warned your granddaddy about dragons. But he says that, stay here if you will and rot. 100 years is a mere blink in the life of an elf. I am patient. I can wait. And I'm like, so again, in the books, I don't think it's ever really a secret that Thorin was after his family's money. Like, sure, they want to go back to, their ancestral home, but really, like, he is talking about thieves, like people. They're not sure if the dragon is dead or not. They haven't seen him in a long time. He's worried that people are going to start getting ideas. So he wants to go claim it before anyone else does. And of course, the book also is very clear that the Elf King does like himself some pretty jewelry. So
they really built that up throughout like the first and second movie. Mm-hmm. But then like the third one, it just like, where did that go?
Yeah, I just really kind of hate the idea that the Arkenstone is like how you like claim the throne of Erebor, but then also it has anything to do with uniting the other dwarf clans. It's just like,
it's like the dwarves like, I'm not gonna accept you as king until I see this pretty rock.
Yeah, that's like
they know it's his.
Yeah, it just isn't that deep, it's just they like pretty things. We all like pretty things in Middle Earth, and that's fine, and that's good enough, so Thorin doesn't talk. And it really isn't until the next chapter that we actually see the other dwarves get captured, but I think it makes sense that they just kind of keep them all together here. And ultimately, like, I don't know, I feel like this part of the movie was like a little all over the place. A little like whatever. Like I really just wasn't like super into it. Like, sometimes they do things and I'm like, oh, that's fun, or like, in the context of what they're doing. But I was just kind of like, meh, like meh. And but I think a big part of that is that they have moved the focus away from Bilbo, and he's like the heart and soul of it to me. So like every time I rewatch these parts and I see them like reducing Bilbo's role in like the journey and like moving the plot forward, it makes me a little sad. And this is my cross to bear for this movie.
I appreciate the love for Bilbo. He needs it.
Yeah, he's such a cool guy. And and I think Martin Freeman was like such a great choice for him.
Really well.
I definitely appreciate him a lot more watching it now, like 10 plus years later, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, that is wild.
I think his mannerisms just work so well with Bilbo, I think.
Yeah, I think
I love his little nose wiggle. That gets me every single time.
That's like his way of saying, like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that I think that like these movies are really well cast. I think that they had a lot of, I don't know, I feel like especially with them adding stuff from the White Council, there was like a lot of stuff to play with. But I just like, I think Middle Earth needs, and I know that we have the cartoons, and I think that that's they're great, and they include the songs and stuff, which is like fun. But like, I really would like to see more whimsy. It's just a little too serious and not as playful.
It's a funny book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great book.
It is a little more silly than Lord of the Rings, but it's still a lot more serious than the book is. I wish it was even more silly.
Yeah.
I just want the starving scene. I just want the banter between Thranduil and Thorin just sassing off each other. I would have liked that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that that all these actors could have brought it to life in the way that you know. So it's just like the way that they decided to take the story was like, I don't know. I think that Middle Earth deserved a little bit of levity, and a little bit more seriousness, especially if you're going to have like in the background having the stuff with Sauron anyway. Like,
I would have liked more songs.
Yeah,
just
like
all the songs.
The whole movie doesn't have to be so serious, you know what I mean? Like, by adding in the orcs, by like having Thranduil and Legolas be kind of jerks, like everyone's just so angry all the time, and it's like it's a little tiring, low key.
Legolas is so angry. Azog is just
alive.
And
yeah.
And his son, Bolg is his son, right?
Yeah, Bolg is his son,
and they're both gigantic.
Yeah.
And wear mini skirts for some reason.
Right.
And have like weird appendage, like armor additions. And they're like part machine. Looks very uncomfortable.
It does. I'm like, how is that not infected?
Probably is. Honestly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of wondering, so like last time we saw Gandalf piecing out in the movie, well, we know in the book that he's going to go deal with, he's going to go meet up with the White Council and deal with Sauron at Dol Guldur, but in the movie, it was implied that he was headed up north to go find the Witch King's tomb. So I'm interested to see when we get back to Gandalf. I also just love Ian McKellen so much. Like, he could do whatever the fuck in these movies, and I would enjoy it.
Any, like, Gandalf side quest I would watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kali, did you have, so like, I feel, I mean, this part, I don't know. It's whatever. Like, I'm not like finding, like, usually we have like a silver lining somewhere, but I don't really have one today. I'm just kind of like, you know, it just feels like a missed opportunity, especially when we know that Peter can do creepy and he didn't really go for it. He just like gave us lots of spiders.
It gave me more the sense of being drugged up than it did being like magically enchanted.
Yeah. Like I was just like,
No. The chapter is really good though.
The chapter is so good. I think it's really nice to see Bilbo coming into his own, you know, in the book, and really feeling, you know, starting to take on a leadership role, you know. And I really love seeing him use his smarts. Like, of course he does have to fight back sometimes, but that's not like his go-to, which I think is really cool. I think the point, you know, after he kills that first spider, also he kills that spider and then goes to sleep. Like he just kind of passes out afterwards, which like I get it. But it says he felt a different person and much fiercer and bolder in spite of an empty stomach as he wiped his sword on the grass and put it back into its sheath. I mean, I love that stuff. And I do love that, like, and, you know, again, before Gandalf left them on the eaves of Mirkwood, he said, like, don't worry, you've got Bilbo. And it's like true. Like, Bilbo is the reason that they get out of this after all the bad decisions that the dwarves make, you know?
Randall's just so mean to him too in the movies.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I think Lee Page is really
like
cool.
You took him from his comfortable home. He's doing his best.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I don't know. We'll see them getting out next time. Bilbo once again stepping up, and I haven't like rewatched all of it. So like for me, I haven't seen the second or third movie as much as the first one. Pretty much a very long time ago. I mean, I kind of watched them a couple years ago, and I just kind of like, but I wasn't like taking notes or paying that much attention. So like, I can't remember exactly how everything goes down. But I'm like, do we see? I don't know if we'll get to see Bard next time or not. But
maybe not yet.
Yeah, maybe not yet. But I think this next chapter is kind of quick, but it's, you know, their escape, and we'll see how that differs, and maybe we'll get to see Gandalf again. I hope so. I just love Ian McKellen so much. I just think he's such a great Gandalf. I know. Not sure when, and I can't remember when Galadriel and Saruman and all that show up again. Elrond.
Yeah.
I know it'll happen.
The third movie is my favorite, and I probably have seen that. I have my reasons. They're mostly Bard related.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
Totes
very fair. Yeah.
But I still need to rewatch it because it's been a few years.
Yeah, but we will accept Bard related reasons. Yes. Yeah, but I'm just like, I don't know. I feel kind of deflated after this one. Is that just me? Like, no, like the chapter gets me all pumped, and then I watch the movie and I go, nah.
A lot of the fun, the silliness is gone.
Yeah.
For more serious and drug inducing for some reason.
Yeah. And that's the thing though, is it's like they make it the overall tone more serious, but then they add in like this like weird sense of humor in places, and I'm like, we could have just had a silly goose time. But you're making it weird.
You could have had Bilbo singing and going across the trees, killing spiders. That would have been great.
Yeah, it would have been great.
Yeah. I would have taken that over a trousers comment.
1000%.
I could have lived my whole life not hearing one of Tolkien's characters say it. Yeah.
I know. And she's like, and it's like, if you're going to go the extra mile to add in a woman into the story where there was none before, and then that's what you center her story around, I'm like, man, Tauriel deserved better,
Not only was that like the first thing, but she enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I don't know her that well, but I feel like she would not have enjoyed that.
Yeah. I just think knowing elves and like seeing the way that they behave, even in the book with very little we see of like the other elves, it's just like, I don't know, it just feels cheap, like a cheap shot to try to get some laughs. And I'm like, there were other things that you could have done. And like the forced love story is just like, I know that this is just gonna get worse.
I enjoyed Tauriel, honestly. I enjoyed her. I would have enjoyed her more if she was able to flourish.
Yeah.
And not be taught. And like somehow Legolas is involved.
Yeah, Legolas should not have been there. Like I get giving him a cute little cameo, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, Legolas didn't really need to be here. Like I think it kind of takes away from his relationship with Gimli later. Like I don't know. It almost
does
makes
Gimli know he called him a goblin mutant?
Like, I met your father way back when you were a baby.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know, and it just feels like I just don't think he would have ever been that crass, But at this and like
so unlike what we're used to seeing Orlando as Legolas be.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know, like why does it have to be like I get in maybe inheriting your prejudice from your dad, but it's also just kind of like
he still doesn't like elves and Lord, like what we see in the films. Like he's not a fan of them as much, but
but it's not just like they're never just gonna be straight up rude to each other. Do you know what I mean? Like when they disagree in the books, they hash it out, like they debate it or whatever, and like they come to realize that they have a lot more in common than
it's intellectual. The way they fight or argue.
Yeah, and it's never that big a deal, and it's never personal attacks, that's for sure. So I think that if they were gonna add, if I were to go back and say, okay, we're gonna add like a woman elf character, I probably would have given Legolas a back seat.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have this whole weird love thing. I would just let her do her job. Do you know what I mean?
I like that she's interested in not just where they live. I like that she's concerned about what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that they could have made it more like that. Like, and that's a big part of Lord of the Rings, about like different folks kind of like breaking out of their little bubbles. And I think that would have been nice to her to kind of show like, I don't know. I think they could have used her to demonstrate more of like, especially if they're going to go this route with like Thranduil just being like very much a jerk to Thorin. I think they could have shown like the gentler, more fun side of this culture, and not because just she's a woman, but because like so that she can kind of show the duality and like the maybe like the more book accurate part of it, of just like, sure, they don't like strangers, but they're not like mean to them as their prisoners. Like,
is it even fun to live in Mirkwood? Because it's just like so dark and everyone's mean.
Yeah, and they could have used her for like showing some concern about like the South, the southern part of Mirkwood, because that's where Dol Guldur is, and just like maybe because then later we know, for example, that like Gandalf drops Gollum off with the Mirkwood elves, and that's the whole reason that Legolas shows up in Rivendell to say like, whoopsies, we were too nice to Gollum and he got away. And it's not believable for this version of Legolas, like whatever they did with him, he's so grumpy. And like, where's this like kind, chill dude that like couldn't stand for locking up any living creature,
But even in the book, they're like they're saying, yeah, they still gave him meat and water and bread. Yeah. They're like even the worst enemies, they show some kind of niceness to, except spiders. Yeah.
Only spiders is the only thing that they're like, no.
Everyone else, you get food and water.
Yeah. Which is really interesting to think about, because later we're also going to see them fight orcs, I'm sure. And it just makes me think like would book elves have also been that gung-ho about the orcs? I don't know.
I know. Always just reminding myself it's an adaptation, and I don't want to. The book's always going to be there.
Yeah, so, you're right. You're right.
That's just what I told myself, because I was very much not a fan of them when they first came out, but I've mellowed out.
Yeah. And it's like, I think they're fun to watch and have on. And it's like, that the actors were really giving great performances for what the story that they were following was. I just, if you have not read The Hobbit for yourself, I think it's a really super quick read, and it's such a fun story. And there's these little tidbits that I think are really great that I personally would have included, but because they're not included, highly recommend this cute little novel.
And even the version narrated by Andy Serkis.
Yes.
I haven't finished it, but it's already as amazing as I knew it was going to be.
Yeah, we listened to it on one of our road trips to visit like our parents, and he's great. He is so talented.
The way he voices Thranduil is so perfect. I don't know what he does, but it sounds like Lee Pace.
Yeah, and he like buries it for like the dwarves and stuff. I don't know. He's just great. Let him do anything and everything that he wants.
Yes.
I still need to get the Lord of the Rings narrated by him, though.
He's so good.
He
keeps the Scottish accent for Pippin, which I just feel is so perfect.
Aww.
I know.
Andy Serkis is a real one.
Maybe if he reads the Silmarillion, I'll finally be able to understand everything that happens in that.
That would be cool.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. I'm holding out for that.
Wow, that would be. Do you remember when he read The Hobbit like on a live stream during the pandemic? And he took like maybe 2 bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I was like, wow. And then he went back and re-recorded it like for real, like to sell. But the first one was like a charity thing. That would be really nice. That would be a really good audiobook for sure if they did
just
this.
The entire Legendarium, just let Andy Serkis read it to me.
Yes.
I would love that. Yeah.
I would love that too. I still also low-key would love the honestly the cast of both Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, if they did an audiobook version.
I would love that.
That'd be sick.
Just give me everything. Every version. I'll listen to every single audio version you give me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All of the people that were a part of these movies, really so talented, and we know that, right? So it's interesting, like knowing that they're all kind of like masters of their craft, and it's just I would have liked to see some things differently, but ultimately, I think it just shows that there's a lot of ways to interpret Middle Earth, and there's a lot of different things you can do to have fun with it. So I think rather than, because we know that there's news that Warner Brothers is thinking about doing more stories based in Middle Earth. So I just
whatever you give me, I'll take.
Yeah, I really hope that they take this opportunity to lift up more perspectives and like have a variety of backgrounds. You know, I just think that like there was talk of like people wanting Peter to come back, and I just think like Peter.
We've had Peter already.
We've had Peter.
I want something new.
That's what I'm saying. I think that Peter did. I mean, he made a huge contribution to, you know, the Lord of the Rings fandom and, you know, Tolkien's legacy. But I think that there is.
I just don't like the idea that only Peter is allowed to touch.
Yeah, I agree.
Middle Earth. I think that sets up a very dangerous ideology.
Yeah, it's.
You didn't like it when he made the Hobbit. So like, what do you want?
Mm-hmm. A lot of people seem to have forgotten that. And I think that there's so many different fun things that we could do that I think that the more the merrier. And I hope that we get, and like the way that Lord of the Rings, like it did have star power, but it wasn't just all about that. You know, it was about the ensemble. I hope that we get to see more people that are just like A-list Hollywood actors, you know? Like, I think that was one of the big highlights of Rings of Power, truly, you know? So I'm excited. I think that there's a lot of room for the Tolkien fandom to grow in a lot of different ways. And I think that
they need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that having more varied interpretations of Middle Earth would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, obviously, I love the Lord of the Rings movies. Wouldn't change them for anything. I love them for what they are. But give me something else. Like, give me a new one.
Yeah, we've got them. Like they've solidified themselves. Yeah, you know, like we're all they're perfect and we love them. So now it's time for something new.
Because every time there is something new, it always comes with new people entering this fandom.
Yes,
which is always exciting. Yeah. I just 100%. Want more. Just keep it going so that like we don't have a decade in between content like we used to. Yeah.
Agreed. Or even longer if you're thinking about the cartoons, you know. Like
if you gave me like a 30-minute short of just hobbits gardening, I'd watch that.
I would. Like okay, here's my pitch. All right. Like if you're thinking like, what do we need? You know, sure, we don't need the whole trilogy again. What we do need, let's dive into the appendices. Let's go and see what, like, give me an animated Sam, like, chilling with Rosie and his kids, replanting the Shire, Merry and Pippin doing their thing, protecting the borders, you know. I just think that would be so wholesome and cute. And I would watch it on repeat.
Yeah.
You
I'm
know
already,
what I mean?
like, feeling pains in my heart because I want a Hobbit animated show to exist so bad. Anything with Hobbit, I'll take. I don't care what it is. Anything with them. If it's just Sam and Rosie sitting reading books together, I'll watch it.
I would just have it on always. Like, well,
honestly,
what's Sam?
Wait, who owns it now? I honestly have not been keeping up.
It's so disjointed. It's like
I stopped reading the article because I was getting confused.
I know, like there's people that own the rights to the gaming, and then there's like, I think somebody bought it from Middle Earth Enterprises. I can't remember, but Warner Brothers, somebody bought it, and then Warner Brothers basically did a new deal with them so that they could keep doing movies.
Whoever it is, just listen to the fans because we know what we want.
Yeah,
we
and
don't
it's
need
like
another made-up love triangle, you know.
Yeah. I think that's the thing is it's like there is like sure there's room for action and like dark stuff, and I think that you could honestly take what's there and make it even darker if you wanted to go that route. But then there's also room for like some whimsy and levity and some fun. So like there's so many different
Like we're getting that Rohirrim show.
Yeah, that'll be
just
cool.
Like make things more like that.
I hope I really am rooting for that, like, so hard.
Yeah, I know. Well, Miranda Otto's involved, so it has to be at least sort of good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
It'll sound good, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for a totally different flavor, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. There's so much that you could take, like, little references here, little nods there. The appendices have so much information, which, like, I think people are starting to see because of Rings of Power. But I feel like the appendices get slept on a lot. But there's, like, a lot of good nuggets there for storytelling.
It's a big chunk of Return of the King.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually going to probably read it today because I need to refresh my memory to see what possibly we could see.
Yeah, because there's, like, a lot of some of it is just, like, textbooky type stuff, like with the languages and all of that. But then, like, Appendix A and Appendix B are really, like, story heavy. So I don't know, a lot of things on the horizon, and I think that, like, it's all good stuff. I think the Hobbit movies are what they are. I think that, they're a fun romp, but it just makes me excited about the future, really, and what's to come.
Yeah. And I just hope the fandom contains itself and doesn't become as toxic as I'm seeing it be sometimes.
Yeah.
Just keep the excitement up, because if we have that, then we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that it's that's a good point too, like, regarding the fandom, because there's a lot of creators on the internet, and I think, like, that whole idea of being, like, a creator in this fandom space, I mean, it really has exploded over the last few years, right? Like, I mean, we didn't even exist before a couple of years or so ago. So, well, by the time this comes out, more than that, but you get it. But I think that there are so many people that are, like, maybe it started out because of the love of these stories and what they mean to that individual, but we know that hate and vitriol gets a lot of clicks, a lot of views. But I think that a lot of people need to remind themselves of, like, and sure, like, I'm sure that that's, like, true of some people just being horrific all the time, but, like, and that, I mean, that just makes me want to even more, like, continue doing stuff like this and, like, lifting up positive voices in the community, because those need to be heard more than the other stuff. But then I think there's a chunk of just grifters, chasing those likes and the money, and they'll just say whatever it takes to do that. And it's like, I mean, are you
just here to have a good time?
Yeah.
We're not just trying to be, like, happy and not happy.
Yeah, just, like, remember why you came to these stories in the first place. And it's like, and especially if it's Lord of the Rings, like, the whole point was, like, fellowship and friendship and coming together. It wasn't this like this whole divisive thing that people are doing. I'm just kind of like, you probably should go to therapy, and you should probably revisit why you're doing that in the first place. Yeah. But we're not here. We're not about that life. No. Even when I have trouble with our Hobbit. What I am looking forward to, I can't wait till we get to Smaug, though. Low key, is so excited. So excited for that. So excited to see more Gandalf. Ian McKellen can do no wrong when it comes to his portrayal of Gandalf. I'm sure as a person he can.
I was gonna say, I think he's safe.
We all have that capacity.
He doesn't seem to do a lot of wrong in my
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. So we're really excited. And thank you, Kali and Myla, for being here today for Flies and Spiders. Next time it is Barrels Out of Bond, which will be great. And also, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our Patreon, because I don't have that in the first few episodes. And Myla, you're one of our patrons, so thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love supporting like creators I admire and friends, so it was a no-brainer for me.
Thank you. I hope the bonus features have been worth it. So we've been putting out, sometimes we'll put out episodes early. You'll also get, my handwritten notes, which I don't know if you can read them or not. Let me know if you need me to decipher anything ever. But we have more things planned for that, the Patreon. And, if you are interested in supporting the podcast, you can join at any amount. There are no tiers. It is just whatever however you would like to support, $1, $5, whatever you want. And then you get access to all the bonus stuff. I know that we're going to have some bonus episodes soon, so keep an eye out for that. And you can find that at patreon.com/Tolkien with Friends. Of course, you can find all of our social media as Tolkien with Friends or at tolkienwithfriends.com.